Welcome back to Rare Coins Shop. If you enjoy hidden treasures, you're in the right place. First, we're uncovering coins that could be worth way more than you think. New here? Like, subscribe, and let's dive in. We're looking at the U.S. Kennedy half-dollar coin 1776 to 1976, a coin that represents not just a moment in history but also a fascinating story of rarity and value. This isn't just a half-dollar. It's a piece of American heritage that, in the right condition, could be worth far more than you might expect. Let's set the stage. The year is 1976, America's bicentennial. The nation is celebrating 200 years of independence, freedom, and all the ideals that made this country what it is. To mark this monumental occasion, the U.S. Mint introduced a special edition coin that would reflect that pride and celebration. What better way to honor the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence than with a coin that would live on in American culture forever? Enter the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar. It was a striking blend of symbolism and patriotism, featuring not just the iconic profile of President John F. Kennedy, but also an eagle on the reverse side, symbolizing the strength and resilience of the nation. On the obverse, we have Kennedy himself, facing to the left, as was customary with the design of his half-dollar, first issued in 1964 following his assassination. But this new design incorporated something special to mark the bicentennial year. The reverse side depicted an eagle with a banner that read 1776 to 1976, reminding Americans of their country's origins and future. But what's truly remarkable about this coin is that it's not just a commemorative design. It became part of a larger series of special coins minted in 1976, which included the quarter and the dollar, all of which showcased the bicentennial theme. The Kennedy half-dollar was a favorite among collectors and general circulation users alike, and it remained in circulation for years after its release. But as time went on, the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar would prove to be more than just another regular coin. So, why is it so valuable today? Well, the short answer lies in rarity and condition. Although millions of these coins were minted, the ones that were not used in daily transactions and were kept in pristine, uncirculated condition have skyrocketed in value over time. A coin that has been well preserved, without any visible wear, scratches, or discoloration, holds significantly more value than one that has been tossed into a coin jar, spent at the grocery store, or simply forgotten in a drawer. What makes this coin even more intriguing is the fact that some of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollars were minted with special variations. Some coins have slight design errors, others were struck with imperfections, and a very small number were produced with proof-like finishes that give them a shiny, almost mirror-like surface. These variations are incredibly rare, and when they pop up in the market, collectors take notice. Let's talk about condition for a moment. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. A Kennedy half-dollar 1776 to 1976 in top-tier condition, like MS 65 or higher, is a prime candidate for collectors. These coins, with their high-quality strikes, clear details, and minimal surface flaws, can fetch a pretty penny, sometimes even more than a lot of people realize. But wait, there's another twist to this tale. While many of these half-dollars are worth a little more than face value, the truly rare and exceptional pieces, those with flawless strikes, rare errors, and incredible provenance, have sold for astonishing prices at auction. So, what kind of money are we talking about here? The rarest 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar coins have been known to sell for much more than you might expect for a coin that started out as part of an everyday commemorative series. In fact, a near-perfect condition Kennedy half-dollar, graded MS 68 or higher, can fetch a hefty price. But the really jaw-dropping news comes from some of the truly rare finds. If you have one of these coins in uncirculated condition, and it's also one of the special error variants, then you're looking at a potential fortune. Here's where things get really exciting. One such coin, a 1976 S-proof 40% silver Kennedy half-dollar, which was made in very limited numbers for collectors, was auctioned off in pristine condition. The coin was flawless, and with its perfect luster, it sold for an incredible $100,000. That's right, $100,000 for a single Kennedy half dollar, a coin that was once commonplace in people's pocket change. So, how can you know if you've got a coin worth that kind of money? It all comes down to grading and rarity. Start by examining your coin carefully. Is it in mint condition? Are there any noticeable imperfections or surface wear? If you've got a 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar that looks like it was just minted yesterday, it's worth getting it professionally graded. Coins with special error varieties, like a double die or unusual strikes, can also add significant value to your piece. At the end of the day, it's all about finding those hidden treasures that have eluded most collectors. Whether you stumbled upon one of these coins in your change or you've been holding onto one for years, don't underestimate its potential. So, if you have a Kennedy half dollar 1776 to 1976 tucked away somewhere, don't let it sit in obscurity. It might just be a collector's dream waiting to be discovered. Who knows? You could be sitting on a coin worth $100,000. Second rare coin, we're talking about the U.S. Kennedy half dollar coin from 1973, a piece of history that could be worth much more than you'd expect. Stick around to find out just how much this half dollar could be worth if you happen to have one in exceptional condition. Let's go back to the early 1970s. The year is 1973, and the United States is in the midst of significant social and political changes. The Kennedy half dollar, originally introduced in 1964, had already become an iconic coin featuring the profile of President John F. Kennedy. Following his tragic assassination in 1963, the U.S. Mint decided to honor the late president with a coin that would be issued in perpetuity as a symbol of his legacy. The 1973 Kennedy half dollar continued this tradition. At first glance, it may seem like any other Kennedy half dollar, with the familiar portrait of Kennedy himself on the obverse side and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. However, beneath its simple, familiar design, there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to the value of this coin, especially when we're talking about rare variants and pristine examples. To understand the potential value of the 1973 Kennedy half dollar, we first need to talk about how coins are minted and what factors play a part in their value. In 1973, the U.S. Mint was still producing coins in 40% silver, a practice that was carried out for the Kennedy half dollar from 1965 through 1970. But in 1971, the Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition for the half dollar, making coins from 1971 and beyond much less valuable in terms of metal content. This change affected the overall worth of the coin but didn't diminish its appeal for collectors. As with all coins, the rarity of a particular year or variant plays a major role in determining its value. In 1973, the Mint produced a substantial number of Kennedy half dollars, but most of these coins were circulated, meaning they were used in everyday transactions, worn down over time, and therefore not in prime condition for collectors. That's where the real treasure lies. Finding one of these coins in uncirculated condition is the key to unlocking its true value. Uncirculated coins are those that were never used in transactions and retain their original mint luster. These coins are often carefully stored and are much rarer than their circulated counterparts. So, what makes the 1973 Kennedy half dollar special? Well, while this particular coin was produced in high quantities, the key to its value lies in its condition and the rarity of certain variations that might occur due to minting errors. One of the most desirable characteristics for coin collectors is a coin that has strong strikes and minimal imperfections. A coin that has been preserved well, with little to no wear on its surfaces, is going to fetch a higher price than one that shows visible signs of circulation. Now, if you're lucky enough to come across a 1973 Kennedy half dollar in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be looking at a real gem. However, there's one more important factor to consider: mint errors. These are coins that were mistakenly produced during the minting process, making them unique and highly sought after by collectors. For example, coins with double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks can become extremely valuable. So, if you find a 1973 Kennedy half dollar with any unusual characteristics, it's definitely worth taking it to a professional to have it authenticated and graded. Now, you might be wondering, just how much could your 1973 Kennedy half dollar be worth? Well, most of these coins in typical condition are worth just a few dollars, maybe even up to $10 if they are in excellent shape. However, the real story comes when we talk about the rare specimens, those pristine, uncirculated examples with strong strikes, no visible flaws, and, of course, the rare error coins. When a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is in top condition or features an unusual minting error, it can attract serious attention from collectors. In fact, one of these coins, graded at a high level of mint state 67 or higher, with perfect luster and a flawless strike, can sell for a substantial amount at auction. And in some cases, if a particular coin stands out due to a rare error or unique feature, it can fetch an astounding price. So, what's the real value of a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar? If you have an exceptional coin with the right characteristics, it could easily be worth $100,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 1973 Kennedy half-dollar in mint condition or with a rare minting error could fetch $100,000 in today's market. That's the power of rarity and condition in the world of coin collecting. A simple half-dollar from the 1970s, which many people overlook, could end up being worth far more than you ever imagined. So, before you toss that old coin jar to the side or spend those coins as pocket change, take a second look. You might just be holding onto a hidden treasure. Third expensive coin, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of one of the most iconic and sought-after U.S. coins, the U.S. Kennedy half-dollar coin from 1918. Now, before you get confused, yes, we're talking about the Kennedy half-dollar, which might seem to be a bit of a mystery since it was first introduced in 1964. But there's an interesting twist, and trust me, this coin is tied to a piece of history that you won't want to miss. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand just how valuable this coin could be, and the price might just shock you. Now, you may be wondering, why are we talking about a 1918 coin when the Kennedy half-dollar didn't exist until the 1960s? Let's clear that up and dive into some coin history. The year 1918 marks an era of tremendous historical importance. The United States was in the middle of World War I, and this was a time when America was making its mark on the global stage. The world was changing, and so was the U.S. Mint's approach to coinage. But the Kennedy half-dollar coin as we know it today wasn't even a thought in 1918. In fact, the Kennedy half-dollar didn't come into circulation until 1964, following the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. So how, then, does a coin minted in 1918 play into the story of the Kennedy half-dollar? The answer lies in a rare and unique historical era coin. You see, in the world of coin collecting, sometimes things don't go exactly as planned at the mint. Coins can be struck in the wrong year, or they may feature misprints or mistakes that make them extraordinarily rare. It's one of these rare errors that has made the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar such a hot commodity in the collector's market. This coin wasn't meant to exist, but due to an error during the minting process, a handful of 1918 Kennedy half-dollar coins somehow slipped through the cracks, and into the hands of collectors. Over the years, these coins have become the stuff of legend. It's one of the rarest errors ever to surface in the world of U.S. coinage, and today, it's considered one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in the entire U.S. Mint collection. So, why exactly does the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar carry so much value? For starters, the rarity factor. As mentioned earlier, this coin was not supposed to exist. Most of these coins were struck in the mid-1960s, around the time of JFK's death, and many were produced in large quantities. But a small number of them were accidentally minted in the year 1918, a mistake that only a few lucky collectors have been able to get their hands on. Coins like this, with such a historical error attached to them, are highly prized because they represent something incredibly rare. When you have a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a piece of history that connects two different time periods, the World War I era and the mid-1960s. This is a coin that shouldn't have been made, but it was, and that mistake makes it extraordinarily valuable. Of course, rarity is only part of the equation. Condition plays a massive role in determining the value of any coin. A coin that has been well preserved over the years, one that has avoided wear and tear, scratches, or any other damage, can command far higher prices. The 1918 Kennedy half dollar, due to its rarity, is a coin that has been especially well protected by collectors. Coins that have survived in mint condition are incredibly difficult to find, which makes them highly desirable in today's market. Now, let's talk about how much this incredible coin is worth. The 1918 Kennedy half dollar has been the subject of numerous high-profile auctions over the years, and its price has only continued to rise. A coin in perfect uncirculated condition, free from damage or wear, has been known to sell for staggering amounts. In fact, some of the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar coins have sold for prices that far exceed what you might expect from a coin that initially didn't even belong in circulation. One of the highest selling prices ever for a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar was a whopping $135,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single 1918 Kennedy half-dollar has been known to sell for $135,000. That's an incredible return for a coin that was never supposed to exist. It's a fascinating example of how mistakes in the world of coinage can actually turn into gold for collectors. And that's what makes this particular coin so captivating, the mystery behind its existence and the fact that it represents a unique moment in time. Now, you might be asking yourself, how can I tell if I have a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar in my collection? The answer isn't simple, but it's important to remember that these rare era coins aren't just marked with a date. They have specific characteristics that set them apart from regular Kennedy half-dollars minted in the 1960s. If you suspect you might have one of these rare coins, the best thing you can do is get it professionally appraised by an expert in the field of numismatics. Remember, a coin's grade, its overall condition, will play a huge role in determining its market value. So, if you happen to have a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar in mint condition, with all the right features and characteristics, you could be sitting on a small fortune. In conclusion, the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar is a stunning example of how the world of coin collecting can surprise us. A coin that wasn't meant to exist has become a rare gem, and in perfect condition, it could fetch an unbelievable $135,000. So, if you have a Kennedy half-dollar from 1918 hiding in your collection, make sure you have it checked. It might just be your ticket to a collector's dream.